Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
So we can probably let any applicants in if they're waiting, or is everybody here?
I've got three applicants in the waiting room. Would you like me to admit them all?
Sure, go ahead, and we'll be able to get going here as soon as if everybody's present, then we can probably get going. I think everybody on our panel's here.
I'm still working.
Is a sign on the frustration.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hi, how you guys doing?
Well, thank you.
Okay, so if everybody's in, we can probably, can we get going, or?
Oh, I've got a couple more people coming in. Sanford, you may wish to turn your video off and sound until your portion of the application. Yeah, perfect. Okay, I've got everyone in.
Okay, so maybe we can just let me know when the recording starts and we'll get underway. Do we have sound from the development approvals there? Not hearing anything.
So then we're using.
Sorry, Marie, were you asking from us?
Yes. Are we recording, ready to go?
We are, yes.
Yes, we are.
Good. Okay, well, welcome everybody to the Design Advisory Panel meeting for June 13th. And just want to note that this meeting will be live streamed and video recorded for the public. So we've got an agenda today that everybody should have received, and I think everybody has that. Okay, and I'd like to add 2 items to that agenda this evening. First, we need a chair appointment for the next 2 meetings as I'll be away. And we also have staff will discuss a couple issues with us at the end. So if I could have a motion to adopt the agenda with those added items, that would be great. Anybody want? Kevin, Noel, and seconder, Jonathan. All in favor? Great. Okay. And we had some minutes to approve from the meeting of May 23rd. Any issues with the minutes anybody wants to point out? Okay, so if they're good, could I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Ken, seconder. Angela, great. All in favor? Great, thank you. And that's passed. So we've got 2 presentations this evening. The first one is for property on Island Highway, and Christine Mays will introduce it for us. So go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application DP 1341. It's for a 4-story mini storage and office building comprising of 4,792 square meters of total gross floor area. The subject property is zoned Woodgrove Urban Center, CC4, and is designated a secondary urban center in City Plan, and is currently undergoing rezoning to allow this as a site-specific use, mini storage. Subject property is located on the east side of the Island Highway North, and that's between Enterprise Street and Olds Road and Hammond Bay Road, and contains 2 existing mini storage buildings that are proposed to remain. The subject property falls within Development Permit Area 8, and that's form and character, and the general Development Permit Design, Permit Area Design guidelines apply to the proposed development. There are 2 variances that are being sought as part of this application: a reduction of the north side yard setback, as well as a reduction of the required number of parking spaces, and that's from 69 to 63. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thanks, Christine. And who's presenting this evening? The applicant.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you for having us. My name is Donna Hayes. I am the GM and owner of RW Bob Wall Limited. We are the project managers for this project, and we were previously the project managers on the previous 2 buildings that went on this site. I am joined by our architect and landscape architect and civil engineer. And am I just missing that I don't see them on the screen? But they are here somewhere at the meeting because I saw them log in.
Yeah, we just can't see them.
We're just, okay, just can't see them.
Hi. Sorry, I am here for some reason. I don't know why I don't show up on the screen, but
Yeah,
So,
your
okay.
camera turned on?
I
Brilliant.
believe, yeah, everything's on.
There you are.
Am I there now? Okay.
You are there now. Great, thank you. So I am presuming that everyone on the panel is familiar with the property. As Ms. Mays already explained, we have two previous buildings that were built about 15 years ago. The last building was completed. Our site is currently in the middle of a rezoning to become site-specific to allow us to expand the existing self-storage site that we have there. And that's well underway. I believe I'm just waiting for some paperwork back through lawyers, and we're in the final steps of that process. Our forming character of this building that we're proposing is different than the forming character of the other buildings, although colors will be replicated on site. And the use is obviously the same as the other buildings, although we are proposing this to be mixed use, where we will have some commercial or office space that are up against the highway. There are no changes with respect to access from the Island Highway. That access and fire access actually already exists. But there will be some slight changes off of Marlin, where we do have another access. And some of that is being done in forethought of the Green Thumb Nurseries development that is planned to come behind us. So I'm going to ask our architect, Igor Nardin with OCAs, to speak to some of the forming character changes that are prescribed for this building over the other two that are on site. And I'm presuming that we'll share a screen with the application. Igor.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I can share then. I assume. Share. Okay. You. Okay, sorry. Just trying to make it big enough for everyone. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Yeah, I think it's just to add to what Donna said. I don't want to repeat too much, but basically the design objective was to add obviously existing self-storage inventory, but from the outset, with talking with the client and with the city as well, this has become much more of a commercial corridor than it probably was 15 years ago. So the intent was always to design a building that was more pedestrian friendly and more engaging. In other words, it's not something that like typical storage kind of self-storage buildings turn their back to the street because they don't interact with the public all that much. So there's some apart from the actual look of the building, what we've also done is we've added some commercial space on the ground floor and created a main entry for them as well. The way self-storage works, we've got several entrances for them to move their belongings into the building and so on. So this particular front entry would be mostly used by the commercial tenants, and there's a little bit of parking out front as well. So again, this is a space that will probably interact more with Island Highway than the self-storage use, which is really about trucks and parking in front of a door and loading and so on. So we've tried to include that because then it's a better typology that works better with the commercial site to the north. It really becomes a continuation of that. And without going too much further with respect with what may happen down the road, obviously the building closest to Island Highway, when it gets rebuilt one day, it probably will have a bunch of commercial on the ground floor and so on and so forth, right? So it becomes more part of the commercial fabric of the site or of the area. again, we also achieve this more commercial or office building / mixed use look by creating or including a lot more glass in this building than you'd normally see in a lot of self-storage buildings. The way we did that was basically for especially the front portion of the building that addresses Island Highway. We took all the storage units and literally put them in the center of the building and have a corridor going all the way around. So that's why you see all the glass. We also, which is basically this elevation here, we also did the same thing on the back elevation that addresses Marlin Way. The stairwells are all glazed, the corridors are all glazed. So what you get is a building that is much more transparent, and that's just gives you an idea of what we were talking about. We have the corridors running around the perimeter, especially at the front along Island Highway, and at the back as well. We've tried to introduce as much glass as possible. The other aspect of the building itself, obviously, we've got a flat roof. We have a lot of shading devices, a lot of overhangs. The materials that we've used are actually very similar to the materials of the existing building, or the existing 2 other buildings on the site. What we've done is I think we've used them in a much more, aesthetic way, design-wise, I think, and made features out of how we've used some of these materials. So that creates a lot of these little visually interesting details. The colors themselves are little subdued, so to speak, but again, they kind of reflect what the other building has. It essentially has, in terms of form, it has a plinth with, in the existing building's case, there's stucco above. What we've done is we've introduced a hardy panel as opposed to a stucco, and then a lot of the corrugated siding and so on kind of mimics garage doors in the existing buildings and so on and so forth. So a lot of the details are actually, or a lot of the materials are actually very similar. It's how we've used them that's made it look like it's more of a commercial or mixed use building. The other thing that we've done is and I think I should go to the plan, you'll see how we've really articulated the building quite a bit. And part of the reason why we've done that is obviously because of the length of the building. I should go back just one. I'll give you an idea. This is the site to the north, and you can see what happens. Part of the reason for the variance is they don't have a 3-meter setback either. So that's why we thought, well, the building's right up against the building. So what we really did is we tried to deal with the front and the back that are the most exposed. And then the middle portion becomes more of your typical kind of self-storage. But as you can see, we did provide some spaces that are at a 3-meter setback, whereas the rest is at the lower level is at 1.5. Once we get to the higher story, you'll see that what we've did is we actually pulled back the top floor, so we do have the 3-meter setback. Again, part of the exercise was to articulate that long facade, which is the straightest facade, which is the facade that faces north. And you can see the building that I'd shown you, the existing building, basically to the north takes up this whole area and is at 1.5-meter setback. So again, we've tried as best we could to essentially incorporate this into the site in a way that works for the site, but also takes advantage of whatever exposure we do have in to Island Highway and Marlin Way, and not try to turn our back to those buildings or to those areas as well, just for the sake of getting more units in. The other aspect, and you could probably, I guess I can show you here, we've used basically the grades of the site. So the front of the site that addresses Island Highway will look like a 3-story building. When you hit Marlin Way, it'll look like a 4-story building. Okay. And basically that does not change any of the grades on the existing site whatsoever. And you will see, like I said, when you're looking from Sorry. Obviously, when you're looking from Island Highway, it appears as a 3-story building. By the time you get down to Marlin Way, you'll see how it just gradually steps up. The ground floor within the site has a bunch of drive-in bays. So we've tried to incorporate that. They're the only bays that are actually covered on the site. So again, they're obviously, I think there's a few improvements on the existing site. This is the ground floor with the 2 commercial units. Again, main entry, but there's also access into the units at that level. There's at the lower level, which is basically, this becomes the basement area, and this is all the exposed with the drive-in loading bays. Again, this is the main freight elevator, so they would load up here, come up onto the 2nd and 3rd floor, and basically, as you can see. So this is what I was mentioning. This middle portion where we're right up against the next building, providing glazing there didn't make much sense, but what we have done is glaze the corridors and so on. The main loading area will all have also the glazing, and as you can see, the front portion will appear from the outside to look more like a commercial or mixed-use building. Other than that, as I said, the materials that we've used are quite similar to the existing. The other, I guess, some of the green initiatives that we've tried to incorporate in this building, we have a partial green roof proposed. And again, that's what this green meant to be. Because obviously, we want to retain as much stormwater as possible rather than going into the system. We've also got provisions set for solar panels along that roof as well. And lastly, the building itself is going to be fully electrical. So the other 2 buildings currently now rely a little bit on natural gas. Those will be swapped out when they've hit their lifespan, and we will make the whole site electrical. Apart from that, like I said, we've addressed a few items with the city with respect to linking certain areas for safety, that is, just crosswalks, these kinds of things. So I don't think I have to elaborate further on that. And again, we're all within the height and so on. So as was mentioned, we really only have the variance of basically the parking and this particular setback which is basically just along this portion of the northern property line. Okay, so I think I've said everything I wanted to say. I will pass it on to Victoria, our landscape architect, and maybe she can add a few things.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see some people I recognize after all this time. So the overall site is pretty self-explanatory, except for along the Island Highway. The path has changed. The fence currently does not run on the property line. It runs outside of it. So the path is now outside the property line, and it will link. And at the moment, the path is inside the property, so that runs from north to south. So that's been reorganized, and the fence will lie along the property line and the path outside the property line. So yeah, thanks, Igor. And so that's changed. And because of that, the original, I just want to say something about the original landscape. It was really simple, and actually, apart from the street trees, has withstood the test of time, and it's easily maintained. It's very, very simple. There's lawns, there's hedges, and actually the cedars have been maintained quite well. They haven't been allowed to grow to mature size, but it's not too bad. But the street trees are a disaster. I thought I was being really smart to begin with, and I put in really, really narrow Swedish aspens, but it was just too much. There's just a thing around hydrolines. So I have to admit defeat on that. And anyway, they have to come out because of the new alignment of the trail and the property line. So what I'm suggesting now is, so the new landscape, so the existing landscape, I feel, while it's quite conventional and sort of a bit yeah, conventional sort of horticultural approach. I still think it's valid because it's it's stood the test of time, and it seems to, you know, the buildings are sort of, to use Christine's word, robust, and the landscape feels robust, and I feel it's done quite well. The entrance will be changed, and I've sort of changed that up a little bit. It was a bit monoculture the way I had it before, and I think I've introduced a little bit more color and a bit of variety. It's still quite sort of the broad sweeps of color, but I think it works at the scale of the highway and the buildings. And the plants I put in are, again, quite sort of what I call conventional horticultural plants, but I know they work. I know they'll, you know, I won't go back in 5 years and there won't be anything there. I know these plants will stand up to that kind of this kind of a landscape. And then the street trees, I thought, well, just put something that's way under the hydro lines and has a multi-stemmed, so that it provides a kind of shield at more of a human level. And so I put magnolias in, and they're very pretty when they flower, but they also have a really pretty form in winter, as well as having fairly decent sized leaves, so they'll sort of be obvious. And then we've also added, so everywhere around the building I've repeated this pattern of hedging at various different levels and different textures. And then we've added an arbor, and then amenity area, and I put a little hedge around there so it feels a little more enclosed, and put some dogwood trees in so there'll be something flowering against that hedge. And I've had to keep that fairly simple because we've got septic and all kinds of stuff underground. So but I think, again, it's sort of simple and quite bold, and I think it sits well within the existing. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Kaylin can talk about, I've left the stormwater for Kaylin to talk about if he wanted to add anything.
Hi, Kaylin. You're on mute. We can't hear you. Nope, sorry, can't hear you. Well, maybe I'll, since Kaylin is having a sound issue there, maybe I'll just quickly infill. One thing you may or may not know about this property is it actually does not have access to storm or sewer. And so it has a septic system on site, and we have our own stormwater management on site. You can see the tanks there. We're actually bettering the stormwater management conversation because the area where the new building is being constructed is already asphalt and a building. So we are adding green roof infrastructure to that doesn't exist now. So we're adding more storage to the site than is there currently. We do know that at some point Green Thumb Nursery will be established, and I just will say for myself, excited about that, to see what's going to be happening there. We don't know the timing of that, but we have been working with the city that when those services do come, we will be tying into those services. But as mentioned, right now, that's why there is, part of the conversation about how many offices and bathrooms and whatnot that we have is we don't have access to sanitary. We don't have access to storm. So we're making good use of the systems that we have there. Because this is not a new property to our client, we know what the stormwater trends are. We've been following them for 20 years. So we know what happens on site and what the water volumes, and that 100-year storm that was supposed to happen every 100 years, it's like the 200-year storm that happens every year now. And we know what the capacity of our systems are. And so we have great confidence in working with Newcastle on how our system's going to work, particularly with the additional storage that's been added. You can nod, Kaylin. Did I hit all your notes or? Okay. Okay, so that is our presentation. Hopefully, we're probably a little bit over time, unfortunately. But if there are questions from the panel or comments, we'd welcome them.
Great. Well, thank you for your presentation. Maybe you can stop sharing the screen and then I can see everybody's faces here.
Okay, sorry.
First of all, are there any panel members who'd like to ask a question of the staff about this property? We're not getting a full view of everybody here, so.
Sorry, I'm trying to stop share. There we go. Sorry, I had you reduced down there.
On my little screen to mix everything up. So. Okay, great. Anybody have questions for staff then? Nothing? Okay, so let's see. Oh, Nathan, you want something?
Just a question about the gap at the back of the building. Do you have a section showing what's happening there in terms of the adjacent building and what? Just familiar with? Is there photographs of that space?
Yeah, all we have is the on the rendering. We basically show at the I guess rendering number 2. It basically just shows the proximity of that building. We haven't really their setback is about 1.5 meters plus or minus, and so is ours. So that's what we've matched. So other than that, that's why we've actually pushed back the 4th floor so that our 3rd floor more or less almost aligns. We're just slightly higher than their building.
Sorry, maybe Nathan, are you asking about, I guess the one thing is we do have a footpath through there, right? That between the buildings, we are proposing a connected piece. Understanding that once the Green Thumb Nursery piece is developed, then those people will actually be able to walk straight through from that wherever the street is going to be attached there near Marlin Way all the way through to the highway if they wanted. So at ground level or pedestrian level, there will be a walkway through there.
Thank you.
Okay. Angela, did you have a question?
Maybe it was said, but I just was wanting clarification on, there was 2 areas of office space that are going to be provided, as far as I understand, and then associated retail uses. And I was just curious if there was a plan for the office spaces already, like what kind of offices and what kind of self-storage related retail uses are being proposed.
So I can speak to that quickly, sorry. So there are actually 3 offices in total in this project. The budget self-storage or Woodgrove self-storage office is down on the lower level, so not facing the street. So if you are coming to rent a storage unit or, say that I'm here to access my unit or you need help with someone in their staffed office, that's the level that it's at. They typically sell boxes as well at that space for people who are moving. But those are pretty much the only retail services that are attached to their storage facilities that they sell boxes that say budget on them. There are 2 proposed office spaces that are off of Island Highway and are at the front of the building on the 2nd level of the building. Have we got a commitment from a tenant to take those spaces? No, we do not. So we would be open to what that conversation actually looks like. I can tell you that currently the tenant that they have there is Broco Auto Glass, but that will not be the tenant that is moving forward because they obviously need garage space for a car to go in to replace your windshield and the like. So they haven't determined, but they're open to what suggestions are and feel they have nicely placed units with lots of exposure.
Great. Is that good, Angela? Would you like to go ahead? Maybe you can give your feedback. Let you get started.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to everybody for your presentation. I don't really have too much to add. It was a bit of a tricky one to review against the design guidelines because it's sort of more like an industrial use. Obviously, it's a non-conforming use that was permitted in the previous bylaw, as far as I understand, for meeting the report. So I was just a little bit leery of supporting industrial in the Woodgrove Urban Center moving forward, like additional mini storage, because it's not necessarily that commercial and sort of in my understanding, directly in line with the Woodgrove Urban Center idea of the more commercial idea. However, there are a lot of multifamily going up in the area and providing a diverse services for the citizens. I think mini storage might prove to be something that in a location that's not too far out of town might be a benefit.
Angela, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but maybe because I feel you're at a disadvantage because we've been this past year in an entire process with the city staff and with city council about some of the statistics around mini storage. So I don't know that you have that in your package. One of the interesting things about mini storage, and I should let you know that all mini storage in the city of Nanaimo run at 98 to 99% capacity. So right now, all of them are 98 to 99% full. The other interesting piece is that all mini storages, no matter where they are, they service a 5-kilometer radius from where they're situated. So putting them out of town doesn't actually make them usable for when you have high density. So as we see the density of the population going up, I mean, look behind Michael's right now. We have the 3 new apartment buildings. There's 2 more going up as we speak. We know Green Thumb is proposing a lot of density. These types of storage facilities actually need to be in the areas where there's density because their service population is only 5 kilometers away. I might also mention that Woodgrove Mall falls within that 5-kilometer radius. One of their largest clients is Woodgrove Mall. That's where many of those shops take delivery of as particularly at Christmas time, as extra stock comes in. Some of those smaller shops are renting rental units from our client to put their stock in for Christmas and whatnot. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I also realized you probably didn't get the city council package that we've been working on the last year about those type of statistics.
Okay, thanks. We didn't receive that. So anyway, Angela, if you want to continue, please.
Thank you very much. And that's exactly where I was getting at, is that it does, thinking broadly, it does make sense that there would be this many storage in a close range to all this multifamily going up. So thank you very much for that. The one recommendation I thought just in line with that idea was that maybe there could be some opportunity for a little bit more commercial space in the building. That's just, it's not a recommendation, but also there's a pro forma to think about too. So that's just what I was thinking along those lines with the Woodgrove Urban Center. And I think that was all I had to offer. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Angela. Nathan, you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great presentation. Thank you. It's a fantastic building. The building, it works at many layers. The use, just in terms of the discussion just previously, given the micro units that are showing up all over town, which we need, this kind of thing is going to be in much more demand. So I think it's a great spot, great solution to the problem. I support both variances. I would even support a 0 lot line on this one. Well done. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. Ken? You turn your mic on, Ken.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I sort of agree with Nathan. I thought it was a great addition to the site. I think it actually terminates that site nicely with the other storage units, which look like storage, but this one doesn't. And I think I like the form and the character that you've put together and how you masked it. And I think it really will add to that whole corner of Island Highway and Old in Hammond Bay Road. I agree with the variances. I don't have any problems with any of the variances, and I think to me the color and that will match the existing. So I think all that'll look great, and I think it's a nice cohesive project and very comprehensive. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ken. Jonathan?
Oh, thank you for the presentation. So I agree with the staff comment about pedestrian connectivity. There's that one spot in front of the building with the 3 parallel parking stalls and the sidewalks disconnected there. So I think it's worth rethinking that. I don't know if that might result in reducing the parking even more, but it would be good to, it's just a bit of an awkward pedestrian route with those 3 parking stalls there. Normally I leave the building comments to the architects, but there was a staff comment about adding some more color, and I think highway corridors tend to be pretty gray, so a lot of Nanaimo new architecture tends to be pretty gray, so I think it would be nice to explore some opportunities of maybe getting some of the blue or orange from the branding into the building somehow. There was a staff comment about headlight screening. So the planting bed along Island Highway, there's a few parking stalls there. So I guess just check the planting plan and make sure there's a continuous evergreen row there that's tall enough to block headlights. I was a bit confused about the fencing. So there's a mix of existing fencing and some new fencing. I was just a bit unclear from the drawings where the new fencing is located. I think, is there a fence along Island Highway, or what? And what does that fence look like? How tall is it? What's it made out of?
There's a metal picket fence that currently runs along the highway, and so the idea is that we would just move that back along, like it's not right along the property line, and the path is kind of weird because it comes from the brick on the outside of that of the property line, and then it sort of crosses it sort of crosses into the property, and anyway it wasn't working. So but the fence is existing, so it would be, and it's a metal picket, and I think it's probably, I don't know, I think it's 5 foot high. Donna, do you remember how high it is?
It's probably 4 feet high, and it's a black metal picket fence. Yeah, and we'll be taking it out and moving it back to accommodate the new walkway that goes all the way across the front.
Yeah, so it's pretty transparent, and it's quite urban looking, and it's a nice fence.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. Is there a wood fence anywhere on the property?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember it's mostly cedar hedges, like along the back with Green Thumb. It's all a big cedar hedge that was put in, and then I'm trying to think, is it chain link down the south side? There's a lot of vegetation. I'm sorry, I can't actually remember.
That's okay. I think there was a wood fence in the legend, but I didn't see it anywhere on the drawing, so I wasn't.
Oh dear.
Wasn't sure.
No, it's not supposed to be.
Well, that's okay. Your explanation.
I'll check that. It's not supposed to be there.
I think there's a couple bike racks. Are those new?
Yes.
And I didn't.
We have an interior bike room as well.
Okay, yeah. So for those exterior bike racks, I didn't see a model spec'd, but I would recommend choosing one that has 2 points of contact to the bike frame for better stability and security.
Good point. Yeah, I don't think we got to the point of actually speccing an actual unit, but yeah, I agree.
No, didn't.
And for the variance for the side yard setback on the north, so it sounds like there's the neighbor building is set back 1.5 meters, and then this new building is 1.5 meters, so it's I guess, a 3-meter corridor between them. Just a bit of a concern with a pedestrian route in the future. There could be some safety or SEPTED concerns there, just since it's a long, narrow corridor with no points to escape if someone crossed paths with a person who wished to do them harm. So that's something to think about when designing that corridor. I noticed there's a couple gates there. I'm wondering, are those locked gates is that open to the public or for the tenants, or who can go through those gates?
Is this for the walkway that's between the buildings?
Yeah.
That's for the public. The public can walk through there. And then, yeah, so that's for the public to walk through. The site itself has other gates that are locked for private only, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's it for my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Hillary?
Thank you. Similarly to Jonathan's comments just about the colors, I was looking at the budget sign on the building, and it seems almost itty-bitty and up high and kind of shaded from the drawing. So I don't know if there's like dropping that down a bit or bringing some more colors into the facade that faces the Island Highway. Other than that, absolutely love the green roof, amazing solar panel ability, that's great, fully electrical, heck yeah. I was curious about all the stormwater management, but understanding that it's not connected, I mean, it's great to see, but now it really makes sense why there's such an emphasis on that, so great. And as far as the landscaping, too bad about those street trees, but understand, and magnolias will look lovely, so yeah. And I think the staff comments were all good, and it seems like the ones that I was most focused on, especially around linking the areas for safety with crosswalks, those have been addressed, so really glad to see that, and thanks to staff and the designers for working on that. Otherwise, yeah, thank you for this.
Great, thanks, Hillary. Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And it's great to see Dawn again. It's been a while, and obviously Victoria. You're supposed to be retired like me. But I really like this project. I'm very familiar with this site. I've had storage units in the past here, and I have a storage unit now here, so I'm very familiar with the site. Some of the things really aren't important to me. Pedestrian circulation through the site really isn't an issue for me. People come with their cars, they drive up to their unit, they go in. There's very little pedestrian circulation through the site, so I'm not concerned about that. Also, the headlight screening. Donna can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure the business hours stop at 5 o'clock, and so the need of headlight screening really isn't important. I think everything with the project, the Foreman character, the way the building's sited, I fully support the side yard and parking variances. Yeah, the only thing might be like with relation to the colors possibly enhancing the entry. Might be something you might want to consider if you're going to add any texture or color, Igor, to the building. I like the entry, how you've designed it, but maybe there's an opportunity for you to add texture or color or timber or something that relates to the budget corporation, something there to enhance it a little bit more. obviously, like in the future, everyone's talked about the future of the site next door with the Long Lake Nurseries. Or not Long Lake, Green Thumb Nursery. That there's going to be a lot that's going to be happening around this neighborhood, and it could relate to you in the future. But for the time being, I think this is going to be a great project. We need mini storage. When I was looking around for mini storage, there was very little around. So it's one of those things. It's almost as important as rental units. It's something we really need to address. And so I'm glad that you've included, as much as I would like to see more commercial units, like what Angela said. We need more rental units, and we're going to continue to grow. And so this is a very important project. And I congratulate you on this project and how you designed it. And other than the entry, that's pretty much all I have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. And Hector?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I like the project. I think I saw all the application, all the variances. I like the design. I think I kind of agree with most of the comments that all the panel members already mentioned. So yeah, thanks for the presentation. I don't have more comments to add.
Thanks, Hector. Yes, and so my input, pretty well the same. Really like the way you've designed the building to look more like an office building with the windows and that. It's, I think as Angela pointed out, this neighborhood's really changed when your storage units were there originally, and maybe fit in, and now they kind of look like an anomaly there. So I'm glad you didn't try to match the original buildings and that you've gone with this higher, more floors and more of an office type looking building, even though it's a storage. So I think you've done a great job of sort of finding a medium between those styles. I'd have to concur. I think just a little bit, maybe some touch of color, a bit more, little touch of color here and there might just sort of spark it up a little bit and get away from too much gray. So that's great. And I think Victoria, your magnolia trees will help add that color too. I love to see those trees along there will be great. I think in the springtime when those are in bloom would look lovely and sort of, it's funny how, you can add some flower baskets to sort of a ugly parking lot and suddenly everybody's looking at that and not the ugly parking lot. So it really does change how we perceive things. So I think that'll be a great addition. So thanks to all of you for a great presentation. So anyway, we'll just sum up unless the panel members have anything else they want to add. Okay. I've noted a number of recommendations. I'm not sure, Angela, did you want to make it a recommendation to look at more opportunity for commercial space or not? Or that was just okay, I'll take that off. So that gives us, I've noted 5 different recommendations. Consider improving pedestrian connectivity through the site. Consider adding some of the corporate colors to the building to break up the dominant gray. Ensure the planting beds along Island Highway block headlights. Ensure bike racks, or consider using bike racks with 2 points of contact to the bike frame. And consider adding texture or color to enhance the commercial entrance. I think that's what you're talking about, Kevin, or was it the other entrance?
It was, Madam Chair, it was the main entrance that faces the highway.
Okay. So just to clarify that, the main entrance. Okay. And I don't hear any concerns about the variances and seem to have a good support there. So yeah, Jonathan, go ahead.
You could remove the recommendation about the headlight glare. Kevin changed my mind a bit there.
Okay.
Unless anyone else wants to keep that one.
Well, we'd let you be the expert on that one. You want to take it off? Okay. So that's 4 recommendations then. So if I could have a motion to accept the proposal as presented with those 4 recommendations and support for the variances. Kevin moves, seconder. Ken, all in favor? Great, all done. Thanks for coming in today and good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do.
Okay, so we have a second project this evening, this one on Hillside Avenue, and Christine Mays again will present, give us a little introduction. So go ahead, Christine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So development permit application DP 1343. This is for 6 3-story grant-oriented multifamily residential buildings that comprises of 22 3-bedroom townhouse units. The subject property is zoned steep slope residential, so that's R10, and is designated suburban neighborhood in city plan. It's located on the north side of Hillside Avenue, east of Cottleview Drive. Subject property is within Development Permit Area 6, and that's steep slopes, as well as Development Permit Area 8, and that's form and character. And as such, the steep slope Development Permit Area guidelines and general Development Permit Area guidelines apply to this particular development. The applicant has not identified any proposed variances on this particular application. However, there's going to be a review as we go through the project for building heights drive aisle with refuse enclosure screening, which may require variances, and those will be confirmed through that application review. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Great, thanks, Christine. Who's presenting this evening? You maybe can put your cameras on, that would be great.
Hi, Madam Chair. My name is Stanford Seal. I'm on behalf of Admiral Developments. Can you hear me properly?
We can hear you, yeah. And
perfect.
Then share your screen, you go ahead.
Okay. I'm joined together with Walter and Yvonne, project control and engineering on our development team. Okay, and I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, looks like, okay, there we go. Okay, this is our project at 3530 Hillside Avenue. I'm Stanford Seal, I'm the development manager looking after this project from pretty much from the day that we had interest to look for a project that we can build townhouses for, specifically for families. This is the table of contents. We're going to have a quick project overview, the slope analysis and how we actually ended up here and how we place the units. We're going to briefly talk about the 3 types of homes that we have, the landscape, the exterior design, and then the future opportunities of this site. The site is in R10 zoning, steep slope. The size is 155,000 square feet, 3.5 acres or 1.6 hectares. And we are looking for 22 townhomes, which is part of what we're able to build on as part of the RS10 zoning. The challenges of the site is what can we use of the site? And this has been, the orange components here are the usable areas, and the red areas here are the very steep areas that we are not able to use. So we were figuring out with different ways of planning the site, and we came across the double loaded corridor to simplify and maximize the usage of the site. And the key component is once it passes this elevation of about 130 meters, it starts to drop very rapidly. So we have to stay within this area so that our retaining walls are also compliant with the steep slope guidelines. The type of homes that we are looking to build is specifically for families, for specifically multi-generational families that are affordable, that has side-by-side garages, has front and or backyards, ranging from 4 and 5 bedrooms with 2.5 to 3 bathrooms and 1,500 to 1,550 square feet. The type A has 4 bedrooms on the upper floor with a entertainment play rec room that has a suite as well in it, and a common area with the living, dining, and kitchen on the main floor with the powder room. This is the downhill homes. This is our uphill homes, where there is four bedrooms on the top floor, with a workshop on the main on the garage area, and a living, dining, and kitchen area on the main floor. And the Type C is just a variant of our Type B home. Let's talk about the landscaping side of things. We wanted to achieve a 2 amenity type of project by having a main kids area together with a smaller pocket park to be able to allow the homeowners to be able to experience the site, have places to walk to. And based on our design right now, the kids area is quite centralized to the project, with a little bit of side area that allows people to have a reason to walk back and forth. We noticed that the market is desperately in need of townhomes with yards, and this was definitely a challenge to be able to make sure that we have a meaningful yard to be able to families can actually use them. As you can see in the front yards here, we are still trying to make some tweaking to allow for some of the units to have a bigger front yard, and because the slope of the site is sloping from the top to the bottom, we may be able to make some adjustments to allow for some of these units to have bigger yards. And we would like to see to have at least between 200 to 300 square feet worth of yards for these homes. Secondly, we have, in planning right from the start, we wanted to have as much circulation as we can to allow people to enjoy the site, because we are only building on the top portion of the site, and all the lower portions will be retained as it is currently, so that the feeling that these homes get is they don't have any obstruction in their way, and they will have a clear view of the nature that as it is right now. So when you're coming in from the site, you're able to come down here, walk across the street here, and be able to circulate here, and come down here and here to access the other side as well. We initially tried to incorporate a sidewalk area to the other side as well, but unfortunately that 1.5 meters of sidewalk is very hard to accommodate before the site drops rapidly. So this pathway in front here, we would be intending to have the small driveway for each of the homes to be on the same elevation, so it'd be easier to walk just in case there are cars that's coming down. And thirdly, we wanted to retain as much trees as possible to give this site the tranquility this site feels. So I mentioned one large amenity and children's play area. So in terms of the welcoming area here, the front entrance is also something that is meant to be an experience for people driving in or driving by the site, to have a very nice landscaped front area here with the signage of the site and new plantation behind there to make it welcoming and blending in with the nature around this project. And lastly, we want to incorporate as much wood polymer composite products into the project, because the wood fencing doesn't last very long and needs a lot of maintenance, and metal is not as comfortable as well. I want to talk about the exterior design of the building. The reason why we wanted to make sure that this corner, this unit here, is coming down from the path here, that is the first point that you see of the site, and we wanted to make sure that this is aesthetically as exciting as possible, so that coming home feels nice. We also wanted to incorporate naturey feeling with the cedars colored hardy siding, together with the veneer of the stone with the natural gray and white tones. This is a great balance between good quality material as well as affordable material. These buildings are approached with a flat roof to give it a modern design. And yeah, I covered the 3 points there. Okay, and finally, to touch on what is happening around us and the opportunities moving forward. To our east, there is a 1 acre that we currently have a easement that we provide to that home because they can't access their home without our easement. And we have been in discussion with them about potentially incorporating their property into this project as well. That's where this bubbled area is potentially where the letdown area is to that future project. And to our west is a 5 acre property that we have the ability to connect to them here as well. That will not impact the existing house. And based on the civil engineer design, it's possible to be able to use our site as the low point for sanitary to force to be a forced main to force the sewage up to the top here before it gets to gravity. And they would also be able to drain their storm through us to get to the wetlands to the north as well. I think I have covered all the details on my presentation. And Madam Chair, I'd love for you to take over.
Great. Thank you, Stanford. If you could just stop sharing your screen.
Yep.
Great. Thanks. Okay. Do any of the panel members have any questions of staff on this project? No. Okay. So maybe we'll work backwards. Hector, would you like to start? Well, it's Kevin, actually. It should have been, but anyway.
Okay. I can start, or Kevin can start. Oh, I've already started. Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks to the applicant. I need to say it's an interesting area of the city. It's an interesting property. I would say, like, in terms of design, I don't see any issues. My only concern, and maybe Jonathan, the landscape architect, can comment more, is the building 6. Right on the entry, it's as the applicant was saying, it's a very steep slope. So I can imagine that entry driveway is going to be pretty steep. Like he was talking about how he wants to make a nice entry, and I think that building 6 is just it's basically just a single unit because it's just one house. It's very close to the existing house in that property. So yeah, I definitely have some concerns with that building. My recommendation will be to get rid of building 6 and provide more landscape for safety reasons, and also considering that they are already thinking about expanding the project into future phases. That's all my comments. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Okay, thanks, Hector. Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I like this project. There's a lot of things I really like about it, and there's some things that concern me. I will go over the things I like first. And I think, Stanford, what you've done with the form and character of the buildings, when you see them in just the elevation form, obviously it looks very plain, but when you provide the 3D renderings, everything comes together really nice, and I really like it. There's just 2 things with the form and character. I would say and city staff commented on it. Building 6, the first building when you come down, the west elevation. I think you have the opportunity to just be more sensitive to the existing house that's there, because it is very plain, so we can enhance the west elevation of building 6. Also, the 3D rendering you provide that shows the drive aisle coming down, the main 3D rendering, is not really what you see. I know you've enhanced the corner of the one building, but it's really building 2 that I'm concerned about, because really I think that's the building you're going to see as you drive down into there. And I appreciate you did a very good job articulating that elevation, but I think if you can put some windows in there, or just a little bit more to enhance that building, because I really think that is the feature as you drive down. It's not really as much that corner that you emphasized. I think it is. I think that corner that you mentioned is a corner you're going to see, but I really think it's building 2, the east elevation, that I think you really need to punch that if you can. Aside from that, I really like what you did with your cantilevers and the varied elevations of your eaves and fascias. I think you've done a wonderful job with the building. I would like to have seen more density, but obviously, you explained that in your rationale that you really can't in a steep slope like that. One question I have is, where is the garbage enclosure? Stanford.
Great. I will quickly just share my screen here. Okay, I'm sorry, I gotta bring the other one here. Okay. You guys can see my screen here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Currently, the design is for the garbage enclosure to be in this area here, and bubbled to be here. To be here, and
I can't.
Are you pointing to
Sorry.
it? I can't see where your pointer is.
Oh, did it not see the red bubble that comes up?
No.
Oh,
Maybe we have-
okay.
do you have the
One
same
second.
screen?
Okay, let me.
Looking at your design rationale page, unit placement.
Oh, I need to make an adjustment on what I'm sharing. 1 second, please. Oh, there it is.
You still have the same page.
There we go.
Oh, yeah, that's better.
Okay. Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
So this is where the location it currently is. We're in the process of understanding the requirements of the electrical and mechanical closets, as well as potentially relocating the stairs here to the other side, while considering understanding a little bit about the garbage pickup situation, where usually with other municipalities that we work with, to propose that there is an individual pickup versus a centralized garbage. That's something that we have not understood the, I guess, the requirements and what is typical to propose in Nanaimo. So that's where the garbage pickup is currently located.
Okay. And last question, what is it, a 6 meter drive aisle width?
I will, let's see. Yes, it is 6 meters.
6 meter. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to not, well, it just, I live in this neighborhood, and the walk score rating is not really that good. And I feel this project, as much as I like it, is going to be a nightmare for parking. People are going to have to be parking up on Hillside because the developer is introducing 4 and 5 bedroom houses, which are going to require 2 vehicles. And there's no driveways. There's double garages, but they're not going to use them as garages. They're going to use them for storage. And as much as Councillor Eastmere is probably going to jump on me on this one, people complain all the time to me about when they're in rental situations, even just a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, that they have to pay for parking. And in a situation like this, we always tell people when we came out with the urban design guidelines 20 years ago, that people will have to adapt to parking. Sure, that's true in an urban setting, but in a rural setting like this, this is going to be, in my opinion, a nightmare because there's no driveways, and people are going to have to try to park in the garages. The 3 top selling vehicles every year are pickup trucks. So where are people going to park their pickup truck? And sure, we can say that people need to adapt, but I think as much as I really hope this will be a successful project, Stamford and your employer, I think this could be something that is unsuccessful, and I just want to put it out there because people need to park, and people are complaining about parking. And sure, we do need to adapt, and Hillary will tell me later, I'm sure, and others too. But these units, people are going to be parking on that 6-meter drive aisle is very narrow, and or they're going to be parking up on Hillside, and it's going to be cars all down the street. So I just wanted to vent on that. sorry, Madam Chair, but it's something that I know we need to adapt to, but still, when you have 4 and 5 bedroom houses, you have to have parking available for them, and there's no driveways. All there is the garage, and 9 times out of 10 people don't park in the garage. So sorry for venting, Madam Chair, and thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kevin, for your insights there. Stanford, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing the screen, thanks.
Okay.
Okay, and how about Ken? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and I also like the project. I think I like the way they actually did the slope analysis, and were able to put in 22 units onto the site. Although when looking at the plans, I noticed that they're very tight, and as Kevin says, that 4 and 5 bedrooms are within 1,500 square feet is a lot of bedrooms and washrooms, bathrooms that you have to accommodate. I think one of the when I was setting the plans, I was actually not looking at. I was looking at the plans and how you get into the buildings, and actually building, I think 3, 4, and 5. I didn't realize that I thought you came in through the garage, but you actually have a patio, and the front door is on the back, on the upper side of the slope. So it took me a while to understand that, how you plan that, and the way you work the walkways. I think it does work, and hopefully people will use the walkways. And I agree with Kevin about parking. It's I know I've seen it in Surrey in sort of townhouse developments where people on a 20 or 6 meter wide driveway, you're parking on the side, and half of them are on landscaping, and you do have issues with parking, and especially if you have visitors coming, they require parking. Other than that, I really like the form and the character of the buildings. I think they're really a nice addition to that area, and I think it'll be a good project. Hopefully, it gets built. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Hillary?
Thank you. I think overall it's a really nice looking project. Particularly, I mean, I really like the kids' natural play area, and just the landscaping looks quite nice. And obviously, because it's steep slope, a lot of the plantings are retained. Called out over the parking, I hear you on that, but I honestly have to agree, because when I saw like 5 and 4 bedrooms, I was like, wow, like this could end up being a lot of like roommate situations where people have their own car. So, but all of the units have 2 parking spaces, right? I think that's correct.
Yeah. That is correct.
Yeah. So I did wonder if there was a way to squeeze like a car share spot in somewhere, and I wondered about how delivery drivers might navigate this area. But yeah, I'm sure you've taken that kind of thing into consideration. Yeah, I agree with the staff comments that have been made, and I think it's good density. The parking, I guess, is a challenge, but hard to do more than what you've done with the space. And other than, yeah, I'm not sure about the comment around building 6. Like, I think I can understand why you included that building, and overall I think the panel's made really good comments, so thanks to the design panel for the feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Hillary. How about Nathan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great project. Thanks very much. I don't share the sentiments of parking concerns at all. It should be market driven, and you've done what you can. Cars will fill up. People will stop driving. That's just the end of the story. So, but one thing that can happen is encouragement of access, pedestrian access from the building. For example, the overhead garage doors. Actually, maybe this is more of a question. I don't have a garage door, and maybe garage doors are so versatile these days that they can be used like a pedestrian. So if you have your bikes in your garage, you can just use your garage door. Maybe that's the scenario. I would always consider some sort of a man door in a garage door system for that, but perhaps the garage doors are just used like a regular man door these days. But other than that, just to iterate the parking issue, it should be a market-driven thing. There's a lot of young generations that simply don't have cars and don't want cars, and they shouldn't have to pay for our parking regulations. I'm sorry. So, way to go. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nathan. Jonathan?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Yeah, pedestrian circulation on the side, I was thinking about that a bit. There was a staff comment about it. Just since it's kind of a short dead-end road with slopes, I think traffic's gonna be pretty slow, and infrequent, so I think in this case it might be okay to have pedestrians and cars sharing the same surface, but it might still be nice to delineate like a pedestrian zone on part of the asphalt driveway where there is no sidewalk. So maybe it's different paving type that's flush with the road, so that pedestrians can kind of see where they should be walking. But if a car needed space, they could drive there too if needed. I'm just thinking about connecting from where that crosswalk is on the way in up to the building 1 and building 2. Just the kind of the natural walking route through there is probably going to be on the road. And I guess you talked about the refuse enclosure and how you might still be looking into just pick up at each unit. But I guess if you do go with a centralized enclosure, it'd be good to know a bit more about what that looks like. I guess I would suggest like using similar materials to the fencing that you're using on site. There's some tall retaining walls. Looks like some of them are 2 meters to 2.5 meters tall, which are pretty significant. It is, I guess, in the steep slope guidelines, you can go up to 2.4 meters in this sort of situation. So looks like you're staying within that, but 2.4 meters still is pretty significant for a retaining wall at like a pedestrian scale. So I'm thinking about like the backyards inside and yeah, the backyard space and tall walls. So there was a staff comment about maybe using rock walls. So if there's a way to like maybe add one step or terrace in the wall just to break it up a bit so it doesn't seem so tall, or even using, if you could do like a dry stack wall or something like that, that's a bit more textured and has a bit more of a batter on it that's not quite as vertical, could help with that. I mean, I do understand you're trying to maximize the yard space, and terracing a wall might reduce the yard space, so that and could impact more of the existing vegetation. So those are all things to consider. Steep slopes are always tricky.
Yeah.
And there was a staff comment about planting, having 50% evergreen trees. And I guess in the steep slope area, you tend to have the more native forests, which have a lot more evergreen trees in them. So I think choosing tree species in your planting plan that can complement that is a good idea. So I think like the trees along the road need to be smaller species because it's a tight area, but maybe the trees that are like at the south end of the site could incorporate some more evergreen trees there. The bike rack. So I did look up the rack you spec'd. It's one of those sort of zigzaggy U ones. I would suggest considering a rack that can provide the 2 points of contact to the bike frame instead of that style. It'll just be more functional and easier to use and secure for people using them. For the outdoor amenity spaces, just looking at the play area, I think that play structure you've selected will be an interesting and exciting thing for the kids, but it's kind of like there's kind of just one sort of play feature that's kind of more exciting. The rest are the more logs and stump kind of thing. So I would suggest like maybe subbing out some of those logs and stumps for another play structure that provides a bit more variety in the play experience, like something that spins or twirls or something like that, just so that the kids have one other exciting piece of equipment too, so it's not just the one kind of igloo structure. And let's see, I noticed you had a character image page which talked about wood steps, and there was some mention of unit pavers, but I didn't see those in the design anywhere, so just thought I'd ask if those are still something being considered by you, or if those were removed from the design.
Which page are we referring to?
You had a sheet of character images, L1.1.
So those stairs was meant to be more so of how the connection between the south units are cascading upwards to that between the play area and the south area. Let me just show my screen a bit here. You're mentioning these areas here?
Yeah.
Okay, so where that is intending to communicate is this pathway here, as well as this pathway here. Okay, let me bubble that. Between this area here and this area here. And as we cascade here, are there an opportunity to play with a little bit of the elevation for stairs going up to potential opportunities? This area here, the elevation is a little bit tricky on how to optimize the scenario right now. So we're still exploring that level of detail.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I think in the detail sheet had a unit paver detail, but I didn't see, it looked like on the plan you just have asphalt or concrete. So just wondering if you're still considering unit pavers somewhere.
I believe you're mentioning this area here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So this is in terms of the, let me landscape. So as this is going to be the, let's see here. This will be concrete, and these areas here we would consider a paver to be put there, but at the same time we want to be able to balance the green and the walkway. So this is also where if we were to just make this walkway here paver, it will look nicer. Or different municipalities have different preferences. Is green space more important or a patio space more important? So these are also something that we would like to understand. What is the preference as well while going through this process? What would the community want to see more of? But in terms of this walkway here, it is intended from this concrete sidewalk to get into the unit. That would be paver.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. I guess my only other comment, just in the outdoor amenity space there, the seating wall, it's a pretty long, like that sort of U-shaped wall. I think like when you're standing there, it's like a pretty long continuous seat wall, so maybe break it up with some planters or something, or I think if it's like that, kids might just use it as another play structure. They'll jump up there and run along it, which maybe is okay, but anyway, something to think about. Yeah, I think that's all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I think Angela.
Madam Chair, thank you, Stanford, for your presentation. I generally agree with all the comments so far. Starting with the site design, yeah, the play area is great. And the walkability is good. I agree with staff with including that extra connection, that pathway connection. I agree too with Jonathan that it's not necessarily like a conflict between speeding cars and pedestrians, but it's not too difficult to add an extra walkway in, so that just clarifies that the kids will know always to go to that spot. So it's an expected location for traversing, so that's always good for safety. As far as the landscaping goes, I agree with staff for ensuring that there's no mass areas of retaining wall exposed, and just to try to add some vegetation, cascading plants if possible. And I'm not like an expert in landscaping and plants, but just as far as the design guidelines go, it talks about supporting landscaping that is in line with the local habitat and native plantings to that area. So I would suggest, like, my biggest comment would be to try and minimize ornamentals. It is sort of a gateway to the Lindley Valley. And my recommendation would be to try and incorporate as much native habitat as possible in line with what is adjacent to the site. As far as parking goes, I'm pretty torn. I definitely have lived in some tight spaces. It's really annoying, but you know, I do agree with people choosing smaller or no vehicles at all. But I do note that this zoning does permit short-term rentals as well as an accessory use to the residential use. So I could see some of those extra little bedrooms downstairs is quite easily going to lend itself to being a short-term rental situation. So I just wanted to point that out as far as parking is concerned. It could add to the complication of the site moving forward. Otherwise, as far as the building goes, I love the building. I think it articulates really nicely, especially the upper one. Just having the different roof lines is nice, and hopefully doesn't blends in with the background of the landscaping and doesn't pop out from afar. I would concur with staff to try to incorporate a color scheme that is more conducive to the natural environment as well. It's a little bit modern and it's nice, but I do agree that maybe a more subtle color scheme with a few more natural elements might help it just naturalize it to fit the landscaping, as just to be more consistent with the design guidelines. And that was all I had to add. Thank you very much. Nice project.
Thank you.
Great. I think I've covered everybody here. Is everybody? Okay. My own feedback on it. First of all, I really appreciate the large townhouses. It was so nice to see something with 4 or 5 bedrooms even. I was like, we rarely see that on this panel. So I really appreciate that. I think that's great. And then the thoughtfulness put into yards and a play area and so on. So I think it's a great site for that. I think in terms of form and character, it fits in well, and we probably concur with Angela a bit if there's any way you can sort of just blend it in a little bit, but still, I think it's still a good looking buildings, and we've had some good comments tonight just on how to pick that up a little bit. The only thing I found a little odd was, again, I was looking at the fronts, and you're expecting everybody to come in through the garage. Now I think there's no front door, I don't think, on those units, right? There's just the garage door. You have to go.
No, that's incorrect.
Yeah, that's incorrect. Am I seeing that
incorrect? Let me.
I couldn't see them on your design. I thought all there was a garage door on the street side.
So for building 3, 4, and 5, there is a front door to these units that enter into the main area. And on these units here, there is a front door on the side as well here.
Well, right there. Okay, so but the other side has all the doors at the back, basically.
That's right. That's correct.
Okay. The only badge I can see for that is that people will actually use their garage because people are generally lazy. So they're going to have that remote control and open the garage door and drive in because they'll be home. But where I see a problem there is, where does the visitor go? Or was it somebody, Hillary or somebody mentioned delivery people? How are they going to know where the door is? Like, what are you doing for wayfinding on the site? Will there be a way of sort of directing people so they know where the front door is for a unit?
We can definitely add ability for guidance of where the front doors of these units are and where Amazon deliveries get delivered.
Yeah, I can see that being just a little bit confusing. And then my other concern is also about parking. Normally I'm one to say don't add more parking, but I'm thinking you've got lots of people living in these units, 22 of them, and 2 of those units have guests over for dinner one night. They invite, 2 different couples each, so there's say 4 more cars that come. Where do they go? I can only see 2 visitor parking. Is that correct? One's a handicap and then one's another one? Or did I miss that?
That is correct. Based on the bylaw guidelines, we have followed the minimum requirement for the visitor parking. And that is the 2 parking spaces based on our programming right now.
See, and since there's no driveway, like they go to visit their friends, they can't pull up in their driveway, and the owners already have their 2 cars in the garage. So where did the guests go? That's, I think there's a whole other issue there. So they park where? Around the corner on this hillside drive. So I don't know, maybe there's a solution there. If you, Hector suggested taking out building 6, for example. Maybe if you add a little more parking in terms of a guest parking somewhere. I would normally not even want to suggest that, but I think you're going to run into problems, even just with people coming to visit the people living there. So that would be my recommendation, I think, is if you can find a way to add a bit more parking on the site, partly because of the location of it, where it is. It's not a walkable place. I don't know what the bus services around there, but I doubt it's hard to get there, get close to there. So that might be something that would just make that your project a little more amenable to the people living there. So those would be my comments. Otherwise, I think it's it's great to see more family-friendly housing and so on. So that's really great. So thank you.
Thank you.
So seen quite a few recommendations here. I might have to sort these out with you guys. Okay. So Hector suggested taking out building 6. I'm not sure if everybody else agrees with that, but maybe we could think of it in terms of the parking, but I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that, those suggestions. I'm not sure what to recommend there. Angela, go ahead.
I don't know if it was just parking, but maybe the recommendation would be more in line with looking for opportunities to provide additional parking through a site amendment.
Leave it up to them to figure that out. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And also one of the reasons I was, sorry, Madam Chair, one of the reasons I was making that recommendation is for safety as well. I live in an area with a lot of townhomes, and unfortunately a few months ago a kid got run over because it's very steep. And also it's kind of a blind corner coming, so I can see a car coming downhill and a kid just walking out of the townhome and getting run over. So this again, it's just part of the same recommendation, and as Angela was mentioning, it's also I leave it to the applicant to say if they want to provide more amenity space or more parking spaces up to them.
So you'd like to leave the recommendation in there about consider taking building 6 for safety concerns?
Yes, if it's possible. I'm not sure.
Am I supposed to respond to that comment, or?
No, just make these as a recommendation, and you can work that out with city staff. Anybody on our panel disagree with that, or they're okay with that as a recommendation? Kevin?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's pretty much the scope of this. Like I live in this neighborhood. And this piece of property is right in between Uplands Park Elementary School and Wellington School. So there's going to be families are going to be all over this. And if you have 2 or 3 kids and 2 cars, where are you going to park? And they have garages, and the garages are going to have bicycles and everything else stuffed in there, that they're going to be parking on a 6-meter drive aisle. And maybe the drive aisle needs to be widened so that people can park without having to zigzag through the cars. I'm not sure, but all I'm saying is it's going to be a gong show up on Hillside Road, and I've walked down that road many times, and it's changing. There's subdivisions coming in there. There's everything happening through there, and that street is going to be a parking nightmare, because that's where people are going to have to park. Because if you have 2 cars, chances are you're not going to park 2 cars in this isn't these aren't micro suites or 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom apartments. These are 4 or 5-bedroom buildings, and I think I hope the developer is listening, because I think this project, the way it stands right now, is not going to be successful. I think anybody that moves in there, buys with their family, buys into a project like this, they're going to struggle and they're going to complain, and I just don't think it's going to be successful. So I think if there's any way they can do anything to increase parking, whether it's street parking by increasing the drive aisle width, or getting rid of Building 6, something to increase parking. I really don't think this will be a successful project because of the size of the units. Thank you.
So I think if we make the recommendation, look for opportunities for more parking on site, consider taking out Building 6 for safety concerns, and then that they're both there, and if they use that site for parking, whatever. Kevin, you also had a recommendation for Building 6 in the west elevation could be more sensitive to the existing house. You'd like to keep that there, so okay. Consider adding windows to the east elevation of Building 2 to enhance it visually. Is that good? Okay. I can take that. Parking here. Consider offering a space for car share. Would you like to leave that in, Hillary, as a recommendation? Okay. If there is a refuse enclosure, consider using similar materials to build it. Consider delineating the pedestrian routes with different paving materials. Consider terracing or texturing the tall retaining walls. Considering adding more evergreens to complement the native plantings. Suggest a bike rack that can provide 2 points of contact on the bike frame. Consider more variety of play structures in the children's play area. And consider breaking up the retaining walls in the amenity area with some terracing, I think. Is that correct, Jonathan?
I think you can take that one out. It was more just a suggestion to think about.
Minimize ornamental plants and try and incorporate as many native plantings as possible on the site. I think that was Angela's. Is that okay? And add more natural colors to the color scheme. And yeah, so I've got 13 recommendations there. You guys want me to go over them again? Good to go? Okay, and there's no variances here. So would somebody like to make a motion to accept this proposal with those 13 recommendations? Angela? Seconder? Ken? All in favor? Great. Okay. Well, thanks for coming in today, Stanford, and great presentation, and good luck with the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Okay, so we have 2 other items on our agenda this evening. I don't know, Lania, if you want to speak to the staff issues. Is she still here?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you could just maybe, you were going to discuss the the trees, street trees, and also just give us some information on our next meeting?
Sure. Thanks. Thank you, Madam Chair. So just in response to a question that came up following a previous STAT meeting, I think it was 2 meetings ago, in terms of how the review of trees and tree removal through development permit process is done. So staff did follow up, and I've brought a few notes here just to outline the process, and hopefully this answers the question, but certainly let me know if not. What happens is through the development permit application submission, a preliminary tree management plan and landscape plan is submitted and reviewed. That's done through our DP process, and we do present that information as part of the agenda package for the design panel review. Typically on the landscape plan, it's noted what trees are retained or potentially removed. The tree removal permit and tree management plan are also provided again at the design stage review at the time of building permit. Even at the development permit stage, there's a certain level of understanding of the building footprints or the site organization to be able to allow staff to give some early review and feedback at the development permit stage. And that is done by our city urban forester, as well as an opportunity for our manager of development, engineering, and environmental protection to have a look at. If there are off-site trees, so street trees, then our urban forestry coordinator would have a look at that as well and provide comments. And those comments come through our development permit referral process. So applications are referred out to a number of sections. Those comments are then provided back to the applicant in a comprehensive letter as part of the development permit application review. Again, it's still conceptual somewhat in terms of design of the site or landscaping and even building footprints, but there's a certain level of understanding through the development permit that we want to get to, that moving forward to a building permit and design stage acceptance, that there's some understanding of the trees that may be removed or may be retained. Ultimately, when a development permit is approved, again, that's the conceptual design. They move on for their building permit submission, and through the civil design stage, as I noted, they make that application for a tree removal permit. There may be some questions through that when our staff review the information, and that will be put back to the development teams. Could be some back and forth to understand, site visits to look at the details, and resubmission of their tree management plan if needed. So the tree removal permit would only be issued as well after there is certainty on the design. So that would be, for example, a development permit's been issued, and also the design stage acceptance has been issued through the building permit. The tree removal permit also identifies any fencing requirements, monitoring to be done throughout the project construction, but done by the project arborist. And of course, if any change comes up during the construction process or later at that stage, for example, root conflicts with foundations, there would need to be, the project arborist would have to notify city staff, and they'd have to work through that. And of course, if there is any amendments, that would have to be approved by city staff. There's bonding held for 2 years for tree maintenance through that process. And where trees cannot be accommodated on site if they aren't meeting their replacement requirements. And I should have said, of course, all of that is reviewed in accordance with our Management and Protection of Trees bylaw. So if they're not able to achieve their replacement requirements on site, then there is the opportunity for cash in lieu for street trees done by parks throughout the city elsewhere. So generally that outlines the process that is followed for review of trees. As I noted, more conceptual at the development permit stage, and any comments that are provided do inform the development permit, but it's really through the detailed design stage that the retention is confirmed as well. Happy to answer any other questions or try to.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So where does that put us when it comes down to situations like this? Like, are we allowed to, this kind of goes into similar to what the parking variance thing, where does it put us with our voice in protecting trees? Are we allowed to say, please come back and make sure that trees are retained or anything like that, or whether or not we should just, absolve from that?
Thank you, through the chair, for the question. The comments that the design panel provides are valuable in the sense of the local context, as well as a broader understanding of the city objectives. And certainly if the panel makes a recommendation to look at opportunities to further retain trees, or make adjustments to a design to retain trees, that would be a fair comment or recommendation to be made. Ultimately, the decision for retention, staff are the ones who will review the application through a tree removal permit application and make the ultimate decision on what is retained.
So we're allowed to make comments on trees that aren't on the property? Through the chair, my recommendation would be, your comments would be really focused on the on-site conditions. So for example, if the on-site design is impacting street trees, then focusing the comments to the on-site. So for example, encouraging an applicant to look at the opportunity to adjust their design on-site if it is in conflict with retention of a significant tree or other site feature, a rock outcrop or some other feature in the landscape. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I'm worried about the most, from not a litigation standpoint, but not only that, but in this particular instance on Wesley Street, the city of Nanaimo is the applicant on that project. I believe they were listed as the applicant, and making sure that there's going to be no circumstances down the road where situations could come up where the city of Nanaimo, but the main thing is that the trees are not on the property, and making sure that whether or not we should really respond to that.
What surprised me with that situation was that it even got, the project got as far as it did. The city was selling that property, and if they're the applicant, why the heritage aspect of that street wasn't taken into consideration before the applicant even did the design. Like, I felt really awkward dealing with it that night, partly because they put all this work into it, paid for things, and come forward with this. It just seemed to me that this is a street where the city might have been a little more sensitive to what was the historical and heritage situation there. So that was partly my concern. I was just a little shocked that it was actually, we were actually having to deal with it. Anyway, Hillary?
I'll just say, like, having walked by those trees a bunch of times, they're like falling over because of, like, they look like they're angling already because of the way that the parking lot is there. So I appreciate the points being raised, but like, they're also not part of the trees that are lit along Wesley. I just think it's interesting that we're fighting so hard for these two trees when there's like tons of trees that get taken out with other developments all the time. We're kind of just like, as long as you replace them, good to go. And it's just a very constrained site. So I just think it's going to be hard to do anything with that property without touching those trees. And I think that they're in jeopardy anyway, just because of the way that the parking lot exists as it is now.
Madam Chair, if I can just pop in to generalize, in terms of our process and the comments from the panel, even to just move beyond this a specific application or location, those comments that the panel do provide, or even formal recommendations, of course, that is passed along to applicants. So keep in mind that the time that a project is presented to the design panel is very early on in the application review process. So we haven't yet formally brought comments back to the applicant to even work through. So just in terms of, not to assume things haven't been considered on any project, you're seeing these projects very early on in the design discussion. And so all of that feedback is taken, it is relayed back. We, certainly meet with applicants and their professionals to determine, and city staff, from all perspectives, what is the opportunities to move forward and what's the best way, how each project should be considered. So I just want to note that it is very early on in the stages that design panel sees these projects, so it's not to make, maybe just to offer some reassurance that, these are not completed designs. There's much review still to occur. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Does anybody else have anything on this subject, or can we move on? Okay, well, thanks, Lenya, for clarifying all that. So it's great. Thank you. So I'm going to be away for our next meeting on the 27th and then July 10th. I didn't realize you were going to explain sorry, Lenya, I was going to have you explain what you're doing on the 27th. So maybe I should get you to do that first.
Sure, thank you. On June 27th, this is part of a broader project that the city is working towards our Form and Character Development Permit Design Guidelines update. I think Kevin and a few others will probably tell you this is a long-awaited update that the city has been moving towards, and certainly out of city plan, this was highlighted as an action plan to update our general development permit area design guidelines. So we've engaged a consultant, and they will be leading us through a number of engagement events. This includes outreach to neighborhood associations, getting some feedback from the general public, doing a developer workshop, as well as meeting with the design panel and our accessibility and inclusiveness committee. So getting feedback from a variety of audiences about what is important to them in urban design. And we're very excited about this. And so on June 27th, this is the date, just trying to work along a timeline that was reserved for a conversation specifically with the design panel to get your input. We will be providing an agenda, as we normally do, a week in advance, and there might be a little bit of homework on there for you to prepare and come to have some interesting, insightful, and constructive dialogue with staff and the consultant to get your input on new design guidelines for form and character reviews.
Is that meeting in camera then, or is it still public streamed?
This will be an open meeting, and we anticipate it will probably schedule for about 2 hours. The normal duration that our design panel meetings typically take, no more than that. So more details will come, but certainly if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to myself and we'll go from there.
Great. Anybody questions right now? Okay. So yeah, as I was just saying, I'm going to be traveling on June 27th. I really wanted to attend this, so I will try and patch into it, but I need somebody else to chair because I don't know what my situation is going to be, if I can manage. So there's that meeting, and then the next meeting after that, I will also be away. So if I could get somebody to volunteer to take over the chair position for those two meetings, July 11th and June 27th. Somebody want to step forward?
Unfortunately, Madam Chair, I cannot, because my schedule is going to be pretty crazy over the next couple months. But I'm hopefully there's somebody there that will do it, and I don't want to nominate anybody because they'll probably hate me. So
I appreciate your thoughts, Kevin. Do we have a volunteer?
The 27th doesn't work for me either. I'll be traveling too, but I'll try to patch in.
Okay.
I'm away on the 27th as well. Councillor Perino will be sitting in.
Right. Well, I don't think you can. You probably can't chair anyway, so you're off the hook. So that leaves Jonathan, Nathan, Hector, or Angela.
I can do it unless someone else really wants to.
Or you can share it. The meeting on the 27th should be easy.
Yeah, that one should be easy.
Do most of it, right? And who knows what'll happen on the 11th, right? And
I was going to suggest I could do one. So maybe we pull straws, Jonathan?
You guys want to share it now? Okay. I don't know if we really need do we need a formal motion for assigning the chair? Is it yes? Okay.
Yes, please.
Somebody want to make a motion that Jonathan and Angela will share the acting chair role for the 27th and the 11th of July. Kevin moves. And seconder, Ken, all in favor? Great. You guys can work it out then.
And Angela, you chaired before. You did a great job. And Jonathan, you're going to do a great job too. So no worries, you guys.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I say, I'll try and attend the 27th for sure because I really wanted to take part in that, but didn't realize it was coming up, and I'm just not sure where it'll be, what kind of Wi-Fi I'll have. So, are we doing it mostly on Zoom then, Lania, or are you doing it in person?
It will be on Zoom facilitated, and I would also note not to worry for those who can't make the meeting. There will be other ways that we can certainly provide the information. You'll see it in the agenda package, and we can still receive your input. So you'll be able to watch the meeting recorded as well. So you'll be able to catch up and provide your input in another way.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks a lot for that. All right.
Madam Chair, just briefly to Lania. Last time we went through the design guidelines, at least the urban design guidelines, there was design charrettes and stuff like that, or where people from the industry, is that still going to be part of the focus of it, is to get input from people from the professionals from the community to work together and look at precincts and stuff like that?
Thanks for the question. It will be, there will be opportunity for input, and as I said, we'll be reaching out to professionals in the community. So there's a number of, whether they're developers, architects, designers, landscape professionals, a range of persons, not so much to define areas and charrette style design or illustrate what the city might look like, but rather to focus on the principles of design and the objectives, and I think really to consolidate a number of city design guidelines that we have now in different neighborhoods, and to come up with one cohesive, consistent, or one, I shouldn't say consistent, one consolidated general form and character design guidelines set. So it's not so much to be illustratively defining what the city will look like, but to define the principles. And then the consultant on their team, they do have a graphic facilitator. So that will help in terms of the capturing of input. And I think for people to visualize what everyone's talking about when we think about what is important or successful in good urban design.
And have you, like the consultant, can you reveal the name of the consultant? Do we know who it is?
Yep. So BOP is the name, and it's Boniface Oleksiak, and I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting the third portion of their team, but BOP is the consulting group that's assisting.
And where are they from?
They have representatives from that live on the island as well as on the mainland. So
they're local?
Local, yes. Okay. I'm familiar with Nanaimo.
Okay. Thank you, Lena.
Yes, absolutely. We had a chance to take them on a tour around the city to show them a number of development sites and do a bit of education and sharing on the local context for those that were not as familiar. So, worked out well.
Yeah, no, I just want to say how I was on the design advisor panel with the urban design guidelines and the process we went through with Frank D'Ambrosio, and it's a great opportunity for us. It's something that I hope we all take very seriously and really focus on, and really provide our input on, because we live here and we know Nanaimo, and as an advisory panel, I think this is probably one of the best things that we can contribute to our city, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. Okay, any more questions? Comments? Okay. Motion to adjourn? Kevin? Jonathan second? All in favor? Great. Don't see any disapproval on that. Okay. Well, good night, everybody, and thank you. And thanks to the staff for all your work.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.
Thank you.